Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Clive stream. I'm your host and Clive anthropologist, Charlie Capon. Today, we are talking to actor, warrior, and father Clive Standen. Clive has an epic merch campaign with us at Stands that ends in just a couple of days. So I'm excited to welcome Clive onto the show here. Going to get him going. We also have his campaign tagged right here. So if you want to grab his tee or hoodie before the we end shortly, you should do so right here. You can actually click on it, which is rad. But I'm going to grab Clive here in just a moment. I see people saving the merch to their wish list. Phenomenal. You're also supporting an important charity that we're going to talk about today as well. So super excited to have this conversation. You know, I'm excited to talk mostly to Clive about his acting, his passions, all the things. So if you're unfamiliar with our campaigns at Stands, we mobilize fandom to do good around the world with merch campaigns, short-run merch campaigns that help benefit charity. And we also donate a portion of our profits to charity as well. We did it!
Yeah.
Killing. Well done, Clive. How are you, man?
I'm good. Sorry about that. I think I was pressing too many buttons and it kept disconnecting me, but I'm here now.
You did it. Thanks for joining us today. How you doing?
I'm really good, really good. I had an eventful day. Been up and running, been to the gym in my Rollo t-shirt.
There it is. Yep, looking good. Well, let's jump into it. I'm so excited to talk to you, and I think I'm so excited also for our Stands fans who are fans of other genres to sort of finally somehow, if they were living under a rock, find out about all of your work that you've done. So, you know, obviously, there's so many similarities between you and I. We basically look the same accent. We swashbuckler, Muay Thai fighter. As your Danny DeVito to your Arnold Schwarzenegger here as your twin. People probably know you from Camelot and Taken, but let's talk about Vikings in this campaign. Tell us about Rollo for a minute.
Well, Rollo came along. I mean, I've always been mad about history, and the Vikings, you know, have never really been portrayed on screen in the way that we managed to do in the show that I was involved in for it's 9 years it's been on. I was, I think, 6 years of my life. So it changed my life in a way, not just because the role and the show went on to be so successful, but just because, I mean, it's kind of a dream come true when you get, as an actor, you get to play, you know, I mean, the joke is you turn up to work and you're at the top of a mountain in Ireland and someone hands you an axe, hands you a shield, and the whole set is just there for you, so you don't even have to pretend, and they're like, go and play. Yeah. And we'll put some money in your bank at the same time, and you're like, this is like you've won the lottery. It's like, it's the dream job.
I mean, you're such a standout in the show. And just for everyone who's like not caught up on it, you can go catch it right now. Go to Amazon Prime. It's everywhere, and it made such an impact from history, from the historical perspective. It brought Vikings into pop culture in such a big way, and you were instrumental in doing that. You were also in a show called Taken, so you have a certain set of skills. What kind of skills do you have as a dad? Like, tell us about who Clive is as a dad.
Oh, you know, we'll connect that with a particular set of skills as a dad. I mean, I always think, I mean, whoever is listening to this and who's a dad or a mother, or there is no right or wrong. Well, there is a lot of wrong with being a dad, but I think the point is what I learned being a young dad. I was a dad at 22. Yeah. I got 3 kids. But you mess up all the time.
Yeah.
Because there's no rule book. That's what I mean. There's no right or wrong. There's no rule book about, you know, how to do it. But the most amazing thing is, it is probably one of the only times in our lives as a human being that you find real, unadulterated, unconditional love, where you mess up all the time. You try your best. Your best sometimes isn't good enough. But the thing is, you look at those kids in the morning and you say sorry, or you look at them and you're saying sorry, and and they just go, it's all right, I love you, Dad. And you try harder the next day, and you learn as you go along. And you know, that's what I found. I mean, I'm a young dad, and there's some real big bonuses to being a young dad. I'm still, you know, I'm 40, and I can still kind of like paddleboard and do all these things with my kids when they're now little adults. I never really wanted to be the dad that was like 60 years old with kids, you know, reading the newspaper and not really being able to connect or understand my kids. So I'm kind of lucky in that respect, but it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah,
it's starting when you're 22 now. I mean, my eldest son is 20 on Friday.
Wow.
And I look at him and I'm like, I was a dad 2 years later. You know, it's crazy to think back. So
That's
yeah,
so
it's been
beautiful. There's
ups and some downs,
such an
but we
interesting reflection too, to be able to like be there and go through that journey and help them sort of grow and change and yeah, it's just such a fight sometimes and such a beautiful journey other times,
yeah.
you know.
And the other thing as well is being an actor that's self-employed and a dad is that I have to go away to film quite a lot. My kids have had to get used to me having to go to Dublin, having to go to Australia, and these, and it's great. These far off places are great to film in, but you also have to leave behind your family and you have to leave behind the kids. So what comes with that, what I've learned is that obviously I'm away a lot, but when I'm back, I have a lot more free time to catch up, and I can be a full-on, hands-on dad. But when I'm away, I'm in a completely different country, and the average father that has a 9 to 5 job kind of comes home. Well, no one really works till 5 anymore, do they? Come home at 8 o'clock at night, put the kids to bed, and you don't really get to spend much time with them because they're at school in the morning, and then at the weekends you're catching up on everything. And so, I mean, that's been different as well to the average father that's kind of like got a employed in a full-time job. I'm kind of self-employed and having to make it up as you go along.
Well, it's interesting too, because you're probably bringing back stories and travels and all these things to enrich their lives, right? Like how does these roles, this history, learning about Rollo, learning about Vikings, how does that then influence your parenting?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been mad about history and things like that, and I always want my kids to take an interest in anything. I think it's nice just to have. I mean, the more things you can take an interest in, and you don't have to commit to. You never have to just, as a parent, you can't really force your kids into the things that you're mad about. You're like the shepherd in a way, aren't you? You shepherd them to what they like, and you kind of put them in the right direction. But I do try and say to my kids that it's important to be interested in as many subjects as possible, if not just to be able to hold a conversation with somebody in the future that is passionate about it. It's nice to know a little bit about everything. So that's what I kind of try and do. And I think because they see me going away and I'm a bit of an adventurer and a traveler, and it's just to be like, just always be inquisitive. Be curious. It's that Walt Whitman phrase, isn't it? Don't be judgmental, be curious.
I feel like there's another phrase about instead of being a tourist, be an observer, Don't just like step back and judge everything, but be silently participating in all of it so that you can really be a citizen of the world. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, so you've done all these amazing, I mean, you're a swashbuckler, essentially. You do these like grueling roles, you do these hard, but will you ever, in the future, I think everyone here wants to know, tackle the hardest role of all, the romantic comedy lead? Will you ever jump into the fray in the future here and do a rom-com?
But you know what? I would love to. I'm a big old romantic at heart. Maybe some people don't know that about me. They see me as this big crazy Viking that kind of like, pillages and storms around the set taking magic mushrooms and is fierce. But Clive is a romantic. So I'd love to. And I actually have written a script, which is a rom-com, which I'm trying to pitch out now to different networks and things. Who knows? Maybe it'll just end up on my shelf because I'm a bit of a have-a-go hero. But during COVID, there wasn't much acting work around. So I kind of found that hustle again that I used to have when I was a young jobbing actor. And it's like, what am I going to do to make something for myself? And I started writing, and I loved it. And I've got this, bizarrely, a script. The working title is Cowboy Viking.
What?
But it's not about cowboys, or it's not about Vikings as such. It's more like Notting Hill. It's about a country and western singer who, sings about the simple life his whole life, but lives nothing but, flying on private jets and living anything but the simple life. And his plane crash lands in the northern part of Norway. And everyone thinks he's dead, and he has to kind of learn to start living the simple life with these Viking Norwegians that live out in the elements, these farmers. And he obviously falls in love, and she doesn't know that he's a world famous country and western singer. And and then obviously there's that bit like in Notting Hill where she finds out who he is, and she thinks she's been lied to. And so who knows? That's a little taster. But if Cowboy Viking makes the screen one day, then maybe I'll be able to step into that role.
That sells itself. That's a brilliant idea. Brilliant. Well, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people here adding things to their cart, to their wish lists. They're buying it already through this live right now. Thank you very much. Let's talk about your Stance campaign for a minute. So you have a badass tee and hoodie benefiting Sea Shepherds. There you go. There it is. That's right. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about, so the benefiting charity here for this campaign is Sea Shepherds. Can you tell us a little bit about why sea conservation and water conservation is important to you?
Well, it's always been important to me. My biggest passion is the ocean. Just Clive in general. I love scuba diving. I love being under the water. I always had a bit of a fear of being on top of the water. I'm not the best swimmer in the world, And I discovered, actually, when I started working on Camelot and I'd say Vikings, I started realizing that horse riding was one of my main hobbies. I used to love just getting on the back of a horse and riding off, and I started to do it as part of my job every day. It took some of the fun out of it. So I started looking for a new hobby, and an ocean I'd always loved. And it worried me because I wasn't a great swimmer, but then as soon as I got under the water as a scuba diver with my fins on, all bets are off. You know, it's kind of sometimes feels, I always say, it feels like being Darth Vader or something like that. You almost let the ocean walk around you. It's not about a physical activity where you're trying to swim as quick as you can. You just use more air and you can't stay down as long. So you're under the water and you let everything come around you, and you sit there going, it's kind of meditation to me. Also, one of these guys, I don't like taking GoPros and things underneath and trying to capture it, because I just want it to happen. Just take it all in. You don't know where to look. You know, if you're focused on a little, you know, a few clownfish in the corner, you're going to miss the big whale that's out in the blue. You know, so it's just been it's a big passion of mine, and I've started to see through my scuba diving that the coral reefs are getting bleached and there's less marine life down there. And from when I started years ago, it's very different. I'm about to go back. I went to the Indian Ocean a few years ago, and I was really worried. I'm about to go back actually to do some conservation diving with some sharks and get back under the water. It's been a little while for COVID, and I'm hoping that that there's still, you know, abundance of sharks and things in the ocean. But so Sea Shepherd has just been really a passionate charity of mine. I'm now a patron, because what I love about Sea Shepherd, and if anyone's here tuned in and already knows about Sea Shepherd, they'll back me up here, that if you're going to give any money to any charity, you need to know that there's going to be action taken. There are so many charities out there that their heart is in the right place. They do good, but for me, I'm someone who comes from direct action. If I believe in something, I'll stand up and be counted. I'll stand in your way and I'll say my point. You know, you don't have to listen, but that's what I believe in, and I'll stand up. And if I see a wrongdoing in the world, I'll try and stand up and protect, or to speak out against it. And that's exactly what Sea Shepherd do. There's so many charities that somehow they take your money and they just make nice banners, and they go out there and they say, "Don't kill the whales, don't kill the whales," and they make a big hoo-ha, and that's great because it can get press. You know, it can get on the TV and people can know about something that's going on in the world. But what Sea Shepherd do is they actually get out there and stop it. They have boats. They go out with the. I mean, my friend Peter has been out in Gabon recently for Sea Shepherd, and he's been working with the Gabonese Marines and actually actively arresting poachers. So they go up to the boat, they stop them from fishing, they stop them from catching all this bycatch and these big pelagic animals and marine animals, whales, dolphins, turtles, that are getting killed in these nets. And they're actually stopping, they're making a difference. And unfortunately, obviously, it takes a lot of money to do this. They need to buy boats, they need to, you know, they've got these volunteers that captain the crews, but they are actually, you know, in the Arctic, stopping the Japanese from killing whales. They're in, you know, in a lot of these smaller territories that aren't protected to stop these poachers. And during COVID, there's been a lot less patrolling out there, so you know, some of these poachers have been having a field day just taking what doesn't belong to them. So that's what I like to think. If I'm going to give a money to a charity, that the money is going to directly to making a difference to where it counts. And I am full-heartedly behind Sea Shepherd and their cause.
We're thankful for their work, for their interceding between what's happening out there and the devastation that poachers and whalers and fishers are creating on the planet. Our oceans are so important, and we're so thankful to you and to all the people putting the t-shirt and hoodie in the wish list and buying them here, supporting this campaign. You know, it's going to be ending very soon, so if you're going to buy it, you got to buy it quick. It's going to be over in just a matter of days. So pick up that hoodie or that t-shirt or both, because they're going to be gone to Valhalla soon. So let's go get them. And help protect our oceans in the process. You know, Clive, it's such an important point. When you get to see these places and see what the devastation looks like, it just makes us want to get down there and work with people who are actually on the ground doing something, or under the water doing something. So
yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people, I mean, I don't know if I'm telling people to suck eggs, but I mean, we all think about trees. Trees are really important. There's a lot of oxygen that comes from trees, but people don't actually think about most of our world is the ocean, and there are so much flora and fauna that live underneath the ocean, and the ocean is responsible for way more of the air we breathe, the clean air we breathe, than the trees are. And we just see it as a body of water, and we don't think that things live underneath it. And that's the hardest thing to make people that aren't aware feel for something which they don't see every day. You know, there's so much life underneath the ocean, and it's dying. And if the ocean dies, we die. It's as simple as that.
As simple as that. So please support this campaign and support Clive here in this endeavor. We are trying to protect the ocean. So grab a t-shirt, grab a hoodie. Only a couple of days left. Clive, thank you for your time, and thank you for doing this campaign with us.
And lastly, if I could just say, I mean, if you have anyone that's a fan of mine who hasn't already done so, if you can do something for me today, this is one small difference. I don't expect you, if you haven't got the money to buy a t-shirt, that's absolutely fine. I don't expect you to be paying money to Sea Shepherd, but what you can do for me is watch one little documentary, if you've got Netflix, and it's called Seaspiracy. And if you watch Seaspiracy, you'll have a basis of what I'm talking about. And it would mean so much to me if you just take like an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes of your life and just sit down and watch Seaspiracy, and then you'll start to understand what's actually happening around the world to our oceans and how it's affecting you, you know, everyday life and your children's lives and your children's children's lives. It would mean a lot to me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Clive. Take care. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, man.